Once again, Gene Simmons from Kiss has declared rock music is dead. But is he right? Or is rock just living in a different form than we recognize? Simmons recently spoke on the Zach Kahn show. Asked if rock and roll is still dead, Simmons replied, "It is. And people don't understand how I can say that when we all have our favorite songs and we love our favorite bands. You and I and everybody else. What I mean is that, well, let's play a game, and I've done this before. From 1958 until 1988, that's 30 years. 30 years. So what came during that period? Well, we had Elvis, we had the Beatles, the Stones, Jimi Hendrix, all that, Pink Floyd, the solo artists, David Bowie, and just music that lasts forever. We'd like to think. When Zach mentioned Nirvana, Gene said, "Stop. We are blinded. I'm a major fan. If you walk down the street and ask a 20-year-old who's the bass player in Nirvana, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. No, the Beatles, and to slightly lesser extent the Stones and Elvis, everybody knew the Beatles. If you hated rock music, you knew about them. I'm delusional enough to believe some market reports about how the Kiss faces are the most recognized faces on the planet. And I've tried this before. You walk down the street, randomly ask people, who's on Mount Rushmore? They'll say, Elvis? They won't get it, but they know those four faces anywhere you go. They may hate the band, but you can't deny that. So Nirvana, one of my favorite bands, if you ask somebody who's 20 or something, there's a generation gap. Name a song. They wouldn't be able to tell you. Who's the bass player? No idea. And by the way, I know that because one of the other samples is my son. He's telling me the story. He saw a cute girl, so he's trying to open up the conversation, and she's wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt that's got the tongue on it, and the top of the t-shirt actually says the Rolling Stones. And she walks up, and his first line is, "Oh, so you're a fan, huh?" And she says something like, "Yeah, of what?" And Nick, my son, says, "You know, the Stones." She goes, "The Stones." He goes, "Yeah, the Rolling Stones." She goes, "The Rolling Stones, what's that?" "A band," Nick says. "Are you kidding? You're wearing the t-shirt." And he was telling me she looked down, upside down, I guess, because it's facing him, and she goes, "Oh, I just like the shirt. I just like the t-shirt." And Nick said, "You must know the Rolling Stones. You know Satisfaction," hums the riff. "Nope, never heard it." He went through a few other songs. Never heard of those songs. And he said, "You never heard of Mick Jagger?" And she said, "Mick Jagger? Oh, yeah, I heard." What I'm about to tell you, my hand to God, is true. No exaggeration. She goes, "Mick Jagger. Oh yeah, the serial killer." Anything that you think is commonplace that the masses know, they don't. Very few things everybody knows. After Simmons asked Kahn to name two other bands that could be the new Beatles, Zach brought up Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters, prompting Gene Simmons to say, "Not on your life. Of course I love Foo Fighters. I love those bands. Mike McCready told me he was growing up with those Kiss records. In fact, one of his solos he took note for note from Ace Frehley. But that's not my point. My point is, if you randomly walk down the street and you ask the first young person you meet, a 20-year-old, and you say, 'Name me anybody in Pearl Jam,' good luck with that." And by the way, next to Pearl Jam and Nirvana, strangely, Dave Grohl has become far more popular. They may know Dave because he's done TV commercials and sort of rubbed shoulders with people outside of guitars and concerts. That's how you get to be iconic. So if I say Snoop Dogg, everybody knows who that is. But if you mention other rappers who might actually be bigger rap stars, MC Criminal or whatever, I just made that up. The masses wouldn't have any idea. It's because Snoop plays in the media. He had a TV show with Martha Stewart and that kind of thing, so the masses have no idea who's in Phish, one of my favorite bands, or Pearl Jam. They wouldn't have a clue unless you're a fan. So Simmons argues that since grunge, we haven't seen bands that capture the same global attention. Rock no longer dominates music the way it once did. Instead, hip-hop, EMD, and pop have taken over the spotlight. And while bands like Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters carry the torch, they don't have the same cultural reach as their predecessors. All these legendary bands, not only did they come around at the same time, they came before the internet. And back then, if you saw or heard a great band, the chances are the whole world was experiencing them together. Those shared cultural moments created icons that became larger than life, something we don't see today. So those days of everybody knowing everybody's name are over. Whether it's popular today or not, rock in its purest form has always been about rebellion. In the 70s and 80s, it was bands like Ozzy Osbourne, Kiss, and Iron Maiden that scared parents and thrilled kids, in some cases scared the kids. Today it's acts like Knocked Loose, a hardcore band that just made waves performing on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Their raw, chaotic energy had fans going wild, but left some viewers demanding an apology. That kind of reaction is what rock has always been about. Rock thrives on being dangerous and challenging the norm. So while maybe rock isn't as dominant as it was in the past, stripped-down rebellious music will always find its way back into culture. Whether or not it becomes globally important again is uncertain. Still, there's always hope for a band or even an entire movement to make rock feel exciting and dangerous once more. That's gonna do it for now. Unlike Gene Simmons, I'm not gonna walk up and down the street asking random questions to people. I have a feeling if I asked the random 20-year-old on the street who the Beatles were, they would have no idea who I was talking about. Or Kiss, for that matter. What do you think? Did rock end with the grunge era? Or are we just waiting for the next wave to shake things up? Or does it even matter because we have all the cool people right here? Either way, let us know your thoughts in the comments section. We thank you for watching RockBuzz.